Today's video, we're going to talk about, does social media activity revolving around your brand itself affect your ad campaigns that you're using to drive traffic to your website? That is, does the upkeep of your social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, so on, depending on your industry, obviously it matters what it is that you're in as to what social media is most important. But social media as a whole, if you don't upkeep or create or maintain a social media presence for yourself and your brand, does that affect actually what is happening with your paid ad campaigns on Google, Facebook, or wherever? Because I can tell you right up front that it does actually affect. One will affect the other. That is, what people see on your social media will determine how much they're willing to do business with you after clicking an ad and getting to your website, because there's always a process that people go through mentally in making a decision on going with you or not going with you. And even if they're firmly committed to going with you, you have a great landing page, you took them there, or product that looks really, really good. There's a process that people go through at the last minute to decide if they're going to get scammed or not. And social media and evaluating that actually has a decent impact on that last minute decision they make as to whether sending their money to you and hoping whatever happens that's supposed to happen happens. Whether the likelihood of that happening for them, they judge that based upon your social media presence. Also, just in general, what people are saying about you on social media. That is, do you have any reviews of your company? Is there any conversations going on about your company, about your offer? That all, I can tell you from personal experience and with the travel company that we had dealt with, what their impact on their ad campaigns was once they started taking their social media seriously while we were doing what we were doing to improve the results on their ad campaigns at the same time. Namely, the increase in conversion rates that we were able to get on the traffic that we were driving in once they started to implement some basic techniques to get a social media presence going. If somebody searches for you on Facebook, what are they gonna find? Same thing on Twitter, same thing on LinkedIn. So I'm gonna go through what the details were on that particular case study, so you'll wanna watch all the way through in order to be able to hear the specifics on that, how much it actually increased their conversion rates once they started doing that, and everything you need to be able to replicate that same thing for yourself. I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC. We are a PPC/online advertising agency that provides more profitability on clients' ads and ad accounts. We're different than any other agency in the world in that we offer a guarantee with our services. However, that is, if you do not get more profitability from your ads up front before we take a management fee, there is no management fee, and we are literally paying ourselves out of the additional value and profits we're generating for you with your results up front on your campaigns. With the catch being, of course, we got to know we can get results for a client before we agree to make them that offer, but that is absolutely what we do here at our agency. With that, I have 20 years of online marketing experience, been running Guaranteed PPC for 10 years. To give you the information I'm presenting to you on this channel, I also am the leading and key strategist at the firm that works on and develops a strategy for the few dozen clients that we have. As far as quality of information about how to get results with online ad campaigns, you can't find a better source of information than what you find here. So getting into the content, everybody has been scammed before online. And as a result, I should say, people have come up with their own mechanisms to prevent it from happening. Obviously, that's what everybody does. When something bad happens to them, they say, I don't want this to happen to me again. Therefore, next time I'm going to do it different. In today's age, the internet being around as long as it has been, not having every kind of social media presence that you should have is a huge red flag to a lot of buyers, because in most people's minds, companies should have a social media presence. It's not like it was before where maybe you have it or maybe you don't, or it's a bonus. It's like a requirement now, at least in people's eyes. You may dispute that yourself. Oh, I don't need that, or I don't want to manage that. Because the big thing that I hear my clients say is, oh, I don't want to open that up to the world, because as soon as people start commenting on my page, then I got to respond to it. Then that'll encourage more people to comment. And yeah, I get it. However, you're leaving money on the table if you don't actually want to manage that, which is why there's a whole industry of social media management companies that manage that one single thing for people. We know, because I've talked to a lot of business owners The business owners that I've dealt with in the last 10 years of running this advertising agency, they audit their customers, and this has happened over a great cross-section of different industries and markets. They ask their customers, which you should do, by the way, as well. Why didn't you buy? For the people, you will glean more information on why people don't buy than why they buy. Actually, both are important, but what people would hear time and time again is your social media, I was a little bit unsure about it and I didn't see what I thought I should see there and therefore I didn't buy. If you were to audit your customer base, that's what you're going to basically find, at least in anything halfway mainstream. Because if you sell specialized nuts and bolts for the golf cart repair industry, nobody's going to expect you to have a social media presence because the typical expectation is, hey, you're a super niche company. You are not social media savvy. You do what you do great, but you're not going to be focusing on social media, at least for a business like that, and that's not the anticipation of the customer to think that. But where it is expected by your customer, you are going to take a huge hit, as we already know through the studies that we've done, by not following through and having the social media presence, whether you do or don't want to manage that social media presence for your company. If you were unsure about this, by the way, you could just simply reach out to me at my firm at guaranteeppc.com, and I'll tell you for a fact whether it's likely that you need to have that social media presence. Invest in it to have someone do it for you, do it yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be taking a hit on your ad budget that you're using to drive traffic to your website. Why spend all this money to drive traffic to your website if it's not going to convert at the full rate because you haven't done the little extra things that it takes for the ads to really work well? We also do not charge a fee unless we can get clients a return on investment, as I mentioned in this video already. And we could give you an estimate of how much better we could do with your ads along with information and advice I can provide for you. But with that said, if you're interested in that, reach out to me at guaranteeppc.com. Be happy to tell you. We also sell ad templates. You can find out if we worked in your niche market before. And if we have, we can sell you the winning ads and landing pages and sales funnels that work for your industry. Copy paste those into your own ad accounts and bypass all the work that it takes to build a multi-million-dollar a year ad campaign for your business while you're at it. Going back to the topic at hand here though, the name of the game here in today's world, today's environment, is reviews on Google and Yelp so that people search you and then ultimately they type in your company name and then reviews on it or whatnot. But they also go to Facebook and type in your business name and they find absolutely nothing on your company. For many, many people, we're not talking about 2-3% here. We're talking about double digits, are going to antiquate that to you being a scam, or they're not totally sure about it. They're going to assume it's too high of a risk of being a scam or too high probability of it being a scam. They could deal with your competitor, assuming there are competitors. It's just a safer bet to go with that competitor, assuming everything is almost about equal. So you can be better and lack the social media presence, or if you're the same, you got to have the social media presence, particularly as your competitor has it. And that's the reality. And so you can dig your heels in the ground and say, I don't want to do it, kicking and screaming, all that. But from what we found out, if you want to lose 20+% of your sales from your ads you're driving to your website, you can be as stubborn as you want and not do a single thing on social media, because just as many people, practically speaking, that are looking for your reviews and your reputation on Google are also going to search it on social media, particularly for something mainstream where things are of question more so. You're that travel company. You want to make sure it's a good experience. Or you have a workout. They're going to go to social media to check you out. Anything that's like what I just showed with you, and that they expect that something on social media is going to, again, if you're selling nuts and bolts, or it's a attorney, they're not going to expect a major presence on social media, so it doesn't necessarily so much apply to you. Just look at what your competitors are doing, and that'll tell you whether or not, more than anything, really, whether you need to get your act together and getting an actual social media strategy going for yourself, even if it means paying somebody to update your social media every couple days so it looks like it's active, which that should be your bare minimum in that case, which that's obviously not that expensive to do. So there's no reason for you not to do that and get the extra 10-20% of sales you're losing from the traffic you're driving your site that you don't get because at the last minute and they go to do some last minute checks on you and your company, you don't check out. So with that said, we had a tour company, okay? When I say a tour company, travel tours, that kind of thing, we were already employed at this particular company to do their ads, okay? Make their ads better, because that's what we specialize. If somebody comes to us and says, I want you to do all our marketing, we don't do that, because you could truly only be good at one thing, in my opinion, And that's basically the reality. These do-it-all firms, yeah, it's convenient to hire one company and therefore have one person at that one company to talk to for all your marketing. They're going to half-ass every individual aspect, particularly paid ads, because it's so complicated nowadays. And they're not going to put the time into it. And yes, they only charge you one fee for everything. But the reality is each component of what they're doing gets under budgeted, and therefore it's not profitable. Particularly with paid ads, if you don't put a minimum level of effort into it, it loses money. You're doing worse than nothing. So, but with that said, okay, I mentioned what I'm mentioning to you on this video here about how much this stuff matters. In some cases where client doesn't have the capability to do, like, update their social media, and it affects what we're doing with the paid ads so much because the conversion rate gets affected. The more we scale an ad campaign for a client, assuming client's got to be profitable enough to scale for them to allow us to scale. The more we scale it, the more we make, because our spend, what we charge is predicated on a percentage of spend. The more you're willing to spend, the more we can make. I'll actually sometimes go in and just update the social media on our end. If I know I can scale the budget double and I'll make another $5,000 a month, okay, I'll dump $500 a month of what I'm going to make into the social media updating or whatever, just to get to the other side. So if you don't believe in it, I'll put my money where our mouth is, because I know how much it affects our results and what we're doing, and just do it for you. So to say, as long as obviously you're going to approve us posting there. But legitimately speaking, what I'm talking about here is on Facebook, literally just updating it every 2 or 3 times a week, or even once a week, so that when somebody goes to Facebook to see what your social media presence is like, it's not a post from 2017 and then a post from 2015. Because the user's mind is specifically going to go, is this an active company? Are they doing as much business as they seem to be? Because nobody wants doing business with a company that isn't already successful, right? You want to just go with what everybody else goes with, because that's the least risk. And any company that's successful would be able to update their social media with something, or they could pay somebody to update it. So therefore, there's no reason any legitimate company that's doing well would update their social media once every 5 years. So therefore, they're just going to automatically assume, just like your website looks like crap, they're going to assume your whole business is crap, including the offer that you're trying to sell to them. The reason for that is people judge a book by its cover. They're very judgmental. As humans, we take mental shortcuts on things because it allows us to expel less mental energy to make important decisions in life. If you had to think through every decision on merit alone, it would take too much energy. So people just take these shortcuts. Website, yeah, you might have a great product, but when the other guy doesn't have a website, it's easy for me to just decide at that point who I'm going to go with. And the social media presence is the same thing, but unlike the website, it's almost no money to update your social media once or twice or 3 times a week, compared to the good website, which, depending on what niche you're in, it could be $100,000 to $250,000 to have a decent looking website that matches your competition's level of design and aesthetics. Because people can tell, even though they know nothing about website design, a website that looks like it's expensive versus not, because, just the way that it is. Just like looking at an expensive piece of art. Well, it's not really, I guess, the best analogy, but expensive art versus cheap art. But anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, all this particular client did after informing them of what I'm telling you here today, and all we were doing to inform them to improve their situation and help put us in position to scale the ads more, was to simply update their social media once in a while. And when I say once in a while, at least once a week. They started doing that. We, of course, were still optimizing our ads, and there's no real clear way to just do a test like on this, how much social media and updating it will affect your conversion rates in a vacuum to perform a real clear-cut test. But it looked like we were getting about 20% more of the people to book with this tour company after just simply updating all their social media on a regular basis. Doing it not in a super sophisticated way, but, with also not junk, where it was simply like reposted, like actually saying stuff like, oh, Jill from Fort Myers, Florida had actually booked an XYZ travel tour with us. She had a good experience. Here's what her experience was. Another post was, hey, we have a brand new tour opening, blah, 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 blah. Next post would be like, if anybody has a special request for a tour that you think we should do, let me know in the comment section. Just halfway thoughtful comments where it's not zero thought put into it, but it's also not an astronomical amount of thought. Or in other words, it's not enough thought put into what you're doing to build a legitimate following. It's not meant to be at that level, because that usually takes some serious creativity and effort. It's just enough to where if it looked at it, didn't look like you made any shortcuts on it necessarily either. So that alone, at least it'd appear with what level of analysis we could put on it, would increase the ad traffic that we're driving $5,000 to $10,000 worth of Google Ads traffic to our client's website, affected the conversion rates around 20%. Just with that one thing, that level of social media marketing in and itself. If you want to go further with the things, so that should be your bare minimum, because that's going to affect your conversion rates. If your competitors are doing it, you're not, it's going to affect you at least that much. However, going further here, you should actually be paying social media influencers to review your product or service if your competitors are also at least bare minimum active on social media, because it's going to show up in a search on YouTube, or also on YouTube, I will say. YouTube, if you count YouTube as social media, which some people do, some people don't. On Facebook, you can make a search for a company, and a lot of people also, unlike just looking for the company's page and what, is it active or not, as a way to judge that company if it's legitimate or not, they're also going to look at the search results and see if other people are talking about the company. For a travel tour company, if there's nothing about that travel tour company, they're going to say, why not? There's nobody that's commented about their travel experience. That's something you would typically want to talk about on social media, and that's a huge red flag for people. Now, naturally, it could get people to have them legitimately want to talk about you. You can get that done by asking your customers to post something and give them a discount, or next time it's free or whatever. You can do that. However, what I would encourage you to do instead of that is actually just pay influencers to review product or service, because it's going to have way more weight than your average customer. In fact, actually, you should do both. You should be getting regular old Joe Schmo customers to review your product or service. You should also pay at least 3 different influencers that have at least 10,000 followers / subscribers to review, and that will share it on all their social media, or it can be reposted on all the rest of your social media. Because if it's an influencer on Instagram, you can take their review, post it on Facebook, YouTube, or whatnot, and then so if people are searching on a different platform other than Instagram, they'll find it, and it is still pretty much valid, given it's an influencer that has some pull, if you will, and can reference the clout level of that influencer on the share that you do, the reposting. But it obviously costs money. People think that influencers should review your stuff for free. No, they're running a business, just like anybody else. Just like they come to you and ask you to do something, you're not going to feel compelled to do anything for free, period. And maybe a micro influencer with 500 reviews, they would be willing to just take your thing for free and review it, and that's it, and that's the only payment. For the most part, it's going to be free product or service and money on top. And the more followers, the more it's going to cost. 10,000 or more followers / subs is kind of like the minimum level where anybody's going to consider, you've got a real influencer that reviewed your product or service. You don't need millions. You just need somebody with, I would say, 10,000 to 100,000 to get most of the value out of this strategy. But you get them to review it, and then you post it all over on your social media. / ideally, they would post it on everything, and then any platforms they're not on, you repost it there. That way, when somebody does a search for your company on social media, then they're going to see these influencers that have reviewed it, and it's going to be like, oh, it checks out. Boom. You've satisfied that desire for the customer to do some last minute checks on you. You scratch that itch, so to say. But how much does this actually do for you in terms of profitability? Because in and itself, you can expect to get some sales from them reviewing that product or service. But the reality is there's such a small percentage of that follower base of that influencer that actually is a good candidate for that product or service that you're basically not going to get any direct sales. So if you're expecting that to pay for the cost of the review, unless you're selling something that, like a diet product that applies that 30% of people basically would have a need for that, you're not going to get any direct ROI. However, which is why people are going to scoff at this, because there's no way to directly measure the ROI. And they don't want to take my word for it here necessarily at face value. But people from now on are going to see some really great activity around your company on social media. There's buzz. It looks like there's buzz anyway, even though you artificially created it. And, for $5,000 per influencer, you've got what looks like buzz around your company for the next year at least for anybody who searches your company from now on. So it all is relative. The more people expect to see something on social media said by at least someone, the more you should be doing this ultimately. It does have a cost. The more your competitors are being talked about on social media, the less you are, the more important this is going to be, the more it's actually going to have an impact on your conversion rates, because that's where the ROI is. It is the last minute search on social media to make sure you check out. Just like the searches for your company name and then the reviews after it while they're on Google, they're going to come on social media. Both of them are kind of like ubiquitous with one another now. If they're going to do the review search on Google, they're going to do the social media check along with it almost every time, at least if you're in a space where, again, people expect a social media presence to be there. So with this client, they also took my advice, thankfully, to make our job so much easier, to actually have the influencers. We had 3 different influencers review the travel tour service itself. And that one was the really surprising one, because we had about a 50% increase in conversion rates once we started to do that. That's how many people in that particular space are going to go on social media and check it all out before they go ahead and take the tour. Because it makes sense, right? Everybody's going to say their tour is great. I want to see social influencers who have reviewed it, and so many people want that. That's just going to be the default. And there's really no other way, if you think about it, to really market that, because that's the number one place everyone is going to go to review it. They don't care necessarily what your Google reviews are. They don't necessarily care what your Yelp reviews are. They want to see what the general public has said about it, because indirectly people know that can kind of be manipulated, if you will. Everybody's got the good stars. And then also they want finer details. They want to see what this thing is actually going to be like at the end of the day from somebody who has experience reviewing similar travel tour destinations and so forth, like a so-called expert. You get a travel blogger to review it, and you getting an expert opinion on the whole thing. So anyway, we had about 50% increase in conversion rate on our ad traffic just after doing that alone, which tells you the kind of impact this can have on your brand. Now, granted, you may not be a travel tour company. You may be selling baseball gear, bats, gloves, stuff like that, and doesn't have so much of your market's not going to have so much of an expectation to see strong social media activity going and buzz going around your brand in itself. However, it is something that you would normally want to share on social media. This isn't stuff for a medical problem that you're just going to keep to yourself, if you will. And so in that situation, for the most part, it's still going to be worth it. I'm still going to do that every time. For the companies that I run, I also have a couple product companies. We're doing that same exact thing. Why? Because I already know the value of that. And any other company I would always have the social media influencers review it, just so that when they go to social media, they're going to see something, and anything I use to get them to the site, to get them to buy, I'm not going to screw up the sale there that I should be getting, if you will. Why work so hard to drive people to your site when you're not going to do what it's going to need to do to get them to convert into a customer at the end of the day? That comes first before you go ahead and you add any more traffic to your website. Assuming it's not easy to just add traffic and instantly get the kind of return you want. Once you start hitting a roadblock, then what you should do is figure out how to get traffic to convert at a higher rate. And then once you fix that, you can go back to adding traffic again. I talk about on this channel all the time how that should be your typical process. You add traffic until you can't scale anymore. Then you work on your website conversion rate. Then when you got that up, you try to scale the ad traffic more until you hit a roadblock again. You can't scale any further while maintaining the ROI that you need. And then you go back to try to add more to your website, given that generally speaking, it'll be easier to scale with that method than just try to only add more traffic or only work on the website itself. You go back and forth. But the conversion rate in and itself, it's not just about the website itself. It's about making sure you don't have Google reviews. It's about making sure you don't have Yelp reviews. It's about making sure that someone can actually look you up on social media and that there's not an overall negative sentiment there, because you take charge of your social media presence, what people are saying about you on the social media platform. With that said, if you will, that's part of getting an ad campaign to scale up, which is, with that said, why I reviewed it on this ad strategy channel per se. There's a lot more to obviously getting an ad campaign to scale. I mean, just making sure you have the little pieces of the puzzle here. Social media, how that works in with ads that you're trying to run and get an ROI so you can create a scalable campaign for yourself and run millions of dollars of advertising for your brand, do it profitably. You got to have the right ads, right landing pages, right targeting, all of that. But if you want all that information for free, this channel right here has it for you, and you can rely on it more than anything other place or from anyone else, because I can tell you from personal experience, 99% of the other information you're going to find on YouTube as well as on the web is written by non-experts who don't run any ads. They run a couple ads. They're just trying to sell you a course, or it's ghostwriters or whatever. They're not like myself, who spends 40 hours a week doing ad testing and ad strategy for dozens of different ad accounts with the sole job of getting more results on those ad accounts. And I give you all that information about what works and what doesn't work for free on this channel, so you should subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Furthermore, you should also check out my blog and stay abreast of that as well. You can actually find my blog where I write specific strategies that we use to get results time and time again for our clients and to guarantee their results, which are our go-to strategies. You can find that at guaranteedppc.com/blog. The strategies come with screenshots with all the detailed information. You need to literally copy paste these strategies in your own ad accounts, whereas the channels more so here like high level information that points you in the general direction you need to go. That is actual like copy this and you can get these results. So you should check that out as well. If you like the channel here, you're going to like the blog. If you have any specific questions about anything I covered here, you should leave me a comment below actually, because I can get back to you within typically 24 hours of you just asking the question in the comment section about what you need to know about social media, if you're running ads, how they interact, to what links you should be able to go or should go with your social media. More than happy to help you out as best as I can. If you have any other ad related questions, you can always obviously ask me in the comment section as well. I'm more than happy to give back to anybody who leaves me a comment here and ask a question, answer it for free, just as a thank you for helping the channel grow, because the comments obviously help the algorithm and the showing of this video and getting it out to more people in general. But with that said, no joke, you absolutely need to be taking your social media seriously if you expect a lot out of your ad campaigns and you want to scale to millions of dollars a year in sales and profit for your company running Google ads, Facebook ads, whatever online ads that you want to run or in general should run to get that net result for your company, given one is going to affect the other. And you should really be thinking about your marketing of your business as more so like a single entity or thing, whereas every one thing is going to affect the other thing. Just if you're seen on social media, they're more likely to convert when they come through a search engine. If you run your social media or if you run your, like, let's say your Google search ads and then they go to social media later, they're more likely to, if you've done a good job there, just like we talked about on the channel or the video here today. So anyway, you get the general idea. There's a lot of individual things that you need to know. All this information, once you know it, it's very straightforward and will get you the result you want. It's just a matter of being determined enough to pick it all up, learn what users actually want, putting it into place. And if you do, the results are going to basically be there every time. And they're there because your competition doesn't want to put all the work in. So if you put the work in for your users to find out better and more easy what it is that you offer and how it's better, you're going to end up with most of the customers. That's how things ultimately work, and what you got to do and what you can do to be able to get these kind of results for yourself where you're making millions of dollars a year in your business running these ads. Created a scalable strategy for yourself online in terms of advertising. But with that said, I'll wrap it up with that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Remember when I said conversion rate was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.